I'm your host, Dave Liniger, and today we're diving deep into the realm of financial empowerment with the incredible Tiffany Aliche. Tiffany Aliche is a prominent figure in the realm of personal finance education, gaining recognition as America's preferred financial educator. She is renowned as the founder of the Live Richer Challenge, a transformative movement that has empowered countless individuals globally to attain their financial aspirations. Through her initiatives and guidance, Tiffany has impacted the lives of hundreds of thousands, imparting invaluable knowledge and strategies for financial success. Also, if you enjoy the show, please leave me a review. Let's get into it. Your work often involves financial education. How does grit play a role in achieving financial goals, and what advice do you have for individuals who are navigating financial challenges with determination?
Well, I think the way grit plays a role in financial goals is that for so many people, they don't grow up with access to wealth or even tangible, realistic, in-person examples of what wealth looks like. So for you to believe that you can be wealthy despite not being able to see, touch, and taste it takes an extreme amount of grit. Like I look at my parents, they were both born and raised in Nigeria. My dad came here. He was super smart, came from a very rural village, but you almost have to be crazy to think that you can achieve what he's been able to achieve. He's been a CFO. He was a CEO before he retired. He and my mom raised and college educated 5 girls. 2 of us have our masters. And he's in his 80s now. And I think of him and all the financial lessons that he taught me, but to think of like where he came from, like the level of grit that he had to have in order to just even envision that he could achieve what he's been able to achieve. And so he's passed that on to us because we did not grow up wealthy, not with 5 kids. But as a result of the lessons and the access to his, like, I am willing to do what it takes in order to provide for myself and my family, I have been able to grow wealth for myself despite not necessarily having direct access. And so I think that grit is like the audacity to believe that I can have a thing that I cannot see, And so the advice that I give people who are on their financial journey is to dream the way like 5-year-olds dream. I have a 6-year-old niece and a 5-year-old niece. And if you were to ask them what they want to do, they don't have limits because they don't understand limits. I asked my niece what she wanted to do for her birthday. It's coming up. And she said she wanted to go to Mars. And I thought she was joking, but she was serious. She had seen, I guess in school, that they're talking about like what it would look like to colonize Mars. And I thought, wow, that there is no limit to what she believes is possible. So, of course, we're not going to go to Mars. But what that means is that she has this expansive ability to dream. And so much is possible when you open your expansive ability to dream. People limit themselves even in their dreams, which is really sad. And so that's the advice I would give to start to write down and start to dream out loud the biggest dreams that you can have when it comes to your financial journey.
That's awesome. How can individuals align their financial goals with their broader ambitions the rest of their life? And what steps can they take to ensure that financial stability supports their aspirations?
Well, money is not hard. Like when you really break it down, meaning that the lessons are simple, although sometimes the application can be hard. So that's to correct myself. So this is the way money works, that you have to have income, you have to be earning. How do you make that, whatever that looks like? Then you have to spend less than you make. We've all heard this, but that's just what it is. You can't make 100 and spend 200. That's just not how that works. And then with the excess, you use some of it to provide some safety and security just in case something were to happen. And then the rest of it to grow additional money. And that's just it. You make money, you spend less than you make, you save some, you invest and grow the rest. And so that is the key that most people just never get to the place where they make enough to make more than what they're spending or get beyond the savings part. not really understanding that wealth is actively grown, like it's money that's just sitting on your desk is not going to do anything. You have to put that money to work. And I learned that early on, just like I said, my dad was a CFO and an accountant. And so I learned that lesson very early on that when we first all got our first jobs, I was 14 years old and I was allowed to work at like a summer camp during the summer. And I'm dating myself, but we used to have passbooks. They used to look like the passports, and they would you go to the bank, you pull your money out, and they would print how much money you withdrew and how much money, what your balance was. And every 2 weeks when we got paid, my father would make us sit with him individually at the dining room table and tell him what we did with our money. I hated that because I was always at the candy store and just buy all kind of foolishness. And I didn't understand at the time why he was doing that lesson. He was trying to force me to be an active participant in what I was doing with my money. He wasn't trying to, he never took any of the money or anything else, but it made me sit down and say, well, why'd you take out $5? What did you do with it? Do you have the receipt? Go and show me. Well, what was this $20 for? And so I think the key to growing wealth is, one, identifying what the end goal is beyond money. Like for me, I wanted to retire my parents. I wanted to purchase a home. This is me in my 20s. I wanted to not have to worry about money. So one, I had to choose goals that were beyond money, meaning not how much do you want to make, but what is the big goal? Then two, decide how much money you're going to need in order to achieve that goal. And studies show that writing down goals make them that much more likely for them to happen. And then you share those goals consistently with those people around you. So doing those things can really help to move your goals forward.
Obviously, many people face setbacks on their financial journey. Can you share a personal or client story where grit played a crucial role in them overcoming financial setbacks and ultimately achieving the success they wanted?
Yeah, so for me, Dave, when I was in my 20s, up until I was about 26, I was financially perfect. I just did what my parents told me to do. But usually about in your 20s, that's when you start feeling like I'm an adult. I want to make my own decisions. And I promptly ruined my financial life. I was teaching preschool at the time. And I had just finished getting my master's. And so although my parents helped me with my undergraduate degree, and I'd paid off the rest of the student loans there, the master's I got student loans for. So now I had student loans for my master's, so I had that. And 25, I'd bought my first condo because I was really good at saving and budgeting despite not making a lot as a teacher. So I bought a condo for $220,000. I had a mortgage. My sister was living with me and helping me. She paid me rent, which went toward the mortgage. But then I met up with a friend who, in your 20s, you think that someone has a nice car and a nice place, that they're wealthy. And that's what he said he was. But he wasn't. He was a crook. And he ended up getting me mixed up in this credit card scheme that left me $35,000 in credit card debt. So now I went from 24 having no debt to $35,000 in credit card debt, $50,000 for my master's, and $220,000 for my mortgage. I was drowning, and I was making, I don't know, maybe $40,000 a year as a teacher, $45,000 maybe. And I didn't even want to tell my dad or my mom, and I didn't for a long time. And as a result of me not being able to keep up, the recession hit a year or so after, and I ended up losing my condo to foreclosure. And so I ended up having to move home. And, and I was 29 then. And I felt ashamed because I felt like at 29, you're this adult, you should be able to take care of yourself, but I couldn't. I didn't have a job. I couldn't afford my mortgage. I couldn't afford anything, really. So I moved back home for a year or so to get myself together financially. But it took many years to get from 29 till really didn't get back on my feet until 33, 34. I didn't live with them for that long. I lived with them for maybe 8 or 9 months. But it was really hard financially to get on my feet. And I had to go back to basics of what can I do to earn money? How can I live below my means, whatever that looks like? How do I start to save and start to pay down some of this debt? And then how do I start to invest again? And I did. And I started a business, the Budgetnista, to teach other people to do the same. So that was kind of my grit story. And one of my favorites of one of my clients is a woman wrote me many years ago on Facebook to say that She was doing one of my free financial challenges online. It was called the Literature Challenge. It was about a 3-week free course that I created that I had sponsorship for. So I was able to give it away for free. And she said that she was the working poor. And I'd never really heard that before, that she had a job, but wasn't enough to sustain her. So she was currently in a shelter. And I said, okay. And she said, should I still do your free challenge? Because I really don't have a ton of money. I said, well, one, it's free. And even if where you are now is not where you want to be, the challenge will help to set you up for when you do have additional income, that for you to manage it more wisely. And she said, okay, so she did. And I want to say maybe like 4 years later, she wrote me again on Facebook. And she said, Tiffany, I don't know if you remember me, but I could see her prior message. So I did. And she said, but I just want to say thank you so much. Today I closed on my first home. I couldn't believe it. I gave her my phone number. We both cried on the phone. This woman went from homeless to homeowner, because of the work, that I get to do as the Budgetnista. And so that's grit.
Yep.
Someone in a shelter thinking to themselves, this is not the bottom for me. I refuse to stay here. That there has to be more. I'm going to ask for help. Grit is not toughing through it on your own. It's understanding that where you are is not where you're always going to be, and there has to be a solution, and you're going to seek it out, and you're going to find it. And she did. And so, that was just one of my favorite stories. And a number of people since then have reached out to me who have gone from homeless to homeowner, but that was the first, and it was the most meaningful. And I'll never forget that.
That's awesome. What advice do you have for individuals setting ambitious financial goals? And how can they maintain the determination to achieve those goals over a long period of time?
My advice that I give, because I mentor a lot of young women and especially young women business owners, and my advice to them is that to not make the money the goal, to give meaning to the money. So one of my goals was I wanted to retire. My dad was retired already, but I wanted to retire my mom. She was a nurse. And so there was a certain amount of money that I knew I wanted to have so that way I could pay off their house. And so because if it was just the money, money sometimes can be a poor motivator after you start to make enough. But meaning will always be able to move you. And so I was able to retire her. And that felt awesome. And so one of my goals now is I want to fully fund my nieces and nephews' college fund. So to me, it's you find the meaning, that is your goal, and then you match the money to it, versus matching the money to the meaning to the money, because and it's hard for people who don't make a lot of money to understand that there is a level that when you make a certain amount of money that it doesn't move you anymore. Something else has to connect you, that is meaningful. And so that's the advice. If you have these big, big, huge goals, find the meaning. I want to open a homeless shelter. I want my product to help millions of people, whatever it is, something meaningful. And then you figure out what's the monetary amount that would make that happen. So that is one. And the thing it will help to keep you going, because, the bank statement at the end of the day, when you've had a really hard day and everything's going wrong and it just feels like you can't move forward, that's not going to be enough. Like, well, at least I have the 6 figures in my bank account. It's not. It's going to be, wow, I helped that woman go from homeless to homeowner. I can't give up, because how many more people need help? It's going to be, I was able to take my kid on vacation and, they were so excited. I can't give up. And so that meaning is going to help you navigate the financial goal, but also keep you motivated when things get hard.
As an educator, how do you incorporate the concept of grit into your teachings about personal finance? And what impact have you observed on the individuals you work with?
So as an educator, I understand that students need something to push up against, right? So when you teach for as long as I have, it's been 15 years doing the Budgetnista, but I taught for 10 years before that. So 25 years in total of me teaching. One of the things I learned is that, making everything super easy for students is not the way people move forward. But if something is so hard, it also breaks their spirit, but giving people a little bit of a challenge. And so I created a series of challenges called the Literature Challenge on purpose to give people something to reach for. People want to have I did it moment, whether they're 3 or 103. They want to be able to feel like I was here, and through the actions of my work and my hand and my deed and I was able to navigate forward. And so that is what I've seen. So I try to create environments. Through the Budgetnista, I have an online school, the Literature Academy. I've got my own podcast, Brown Ambition. I try to create an environment where I'm not here to tell you, don't do this, don't do that. I'm here instead to give you the education, the tools, the encouragement, the access, the knowledge, and the community to achieve the goals on your own time and set your own pace so you can have your I did it moment. My father would say this really beautiful phrase whenever one of my sisters and I graduated college or a master's or high school. He would say, you have now reached the next level of life because you have this degree, and this knowledge, and knowledge once given can never be rescinded. Like it is yours for life. No matter what happens, this belongs to you. And so that's what I try to do through the Budgetnista and as an educator is to give people knowledge, but also the knowledge to know that this is yours now. You know how to budget. You know how to save. You know how to invest and make more money. It belongs to you no matter where you are in the world. It can never be taken from you.
That's excellent, Tiffany. I appreciate that. Building financial confidence is crucial for many individuals. How can people develop confidence to take their bold financial steps and pursue ambitious financial goals?
Well, in order to build confidence, especially financial confidence, you have your big goal at the top, but you want to incorporate smaller, achievable goals. So you might say to yourself, I want to go to the gym every week. That's a big goal, and that's a great goal to have at the top. But you might say, tomorrow, I'm just going to start by walking around the block. Because literally science shows us that the neurons in our brains make connections when we do a thing that we say we're going to do. So if all you ever focus are on the huge goals, it might deter you because it's going to be a while before you accomplish that huge goal. So if you want to start making these connections that allow you to create the steps necessary to achieve these big goals, you want to really break them down into bite-sized goals. Like I walked around the block. I saved $5 this month. I opened up a bank account. I read a book. I listened to a podcast. You said you were going to do a thing and you did a thing on behalf of your financial goals. And if you keep building those things up, you're going to have the necessary brain connections necessary in order to achieve these big, huge goals, because there literally has to be a shift inside of you. In order for you to achieve major goals, you literally cannot think the same. Like preschool teacher Tiffany cannot think the same as multi-business owner Tiffany now. Now, there had to be a shift. I had to grow into the person that I am now. And the way to do that is to build confidence by achieving smaller goals.
Awesome. Budgeting is a fundamental aspect of financial management. How does having a well-thought-out budget contribute to achieving the ambitious goals? And what budgeting tips do you have?
So I think people hear budget and they roll their eyes. But the truth is that you can't out-earn a bad budget. Almost like you can't out-work out a bad diet. Right? I mean, some of the biggest companies in the world have gone under because they spent more than they've made. And so it's not about just how much you make, but how well do you manage the money that is available to you. A budget is really just a picture of money in and money out. That's it. And I like to look at a personal budget from a 1 month long time frame. And I ask myself, what does money look like in monthly on average, and what does it look like out on average? And then adjust accordingly. Am I spending too much coming in? Am I maybe even underspending going out? And so one of my favorite tips for people who don't like to budget is to do a system I call split it before you get it. So this is when you have 4 core bank accounts, 2 checking, 2 savings. A checking account for spending. This is where your debit card is attached. A checking account just for your bills. This is where you're going to pay bills from no debit card because you're not swiping, at the local Target, your bills money. So you want to separate your bill money from your spending money. A savings account for emergencies that you want to keep at least 3 months, upwards of 6 months to a year's worth of savings, but at least 3 months. And then the savings accounts for big goals. So maybe this is where you're going to save before you enter the market, or save because you're going to put down payment on a home or purchase a car. So those are the 4 accounts. And then you're going to go to HR or payroll and say, I want you to split my money before I get my money. I really don't want all my money to land in one account. Most payroll departments can do this. I'm not a huge, big company, and we're able to do this. So you're going to do the math and have them split your money into your spending account, your bills account, your emergencies, and your long-term savings. If you don't have enough money to save, at least into those 2 checking. And that will allow you to budget without budgeting, because your money is now set aside. You know you're saving, you know you're spending money responsibly, and you know your bill money is not being spent irresponsibly. And so that's one of my best budgeting hacks, to split it before you get it.
That's cool. That makes a lot of sense. That's easy. Building a community can be essential for personal and financial growth. How does a supportive community contribute to the grit and the ambition of individuals pursuing financial goals?
So community is everything, I believe. I think money is a team sport. So I grew up playing tennis, which is semi-team if you have a doubles partner. But money is truly a team sport. Anyone who has grown any sort of wealth or success, they will tell you they did not get there by themselves. And yet, because of shame, so many people try to navigate money from a solitary place. And one of the things I try to do at the Budgetnista is we have a number of communities. The Budgetnista typically focuses on women, although we don't turn anyone away. And we've got nearly 3 million women worldwide. And we have communities that are as big as 500,000 people on a platform. And communities as small as a few thousand. And what we found is that people want to be able to know that they're not alone out there, that it helps you to develop grit, because you can see, well, she too is a mom and a wife and has 2 kids, and she's figuring it out and sharing how she did so. And so that allows you to have a connection to what it looks like on the other side of your struggle. And it helps you to stick to the thing, because you know there is light on the other side. So to me, there are 3 core components to success. It's knowledge, access typically through someone teaching you something, knowledge, and then community. You need to have other people. They don't even have to be experts, but just people who are going to hold you accountable and keep you encouraged on your financial journey.
Awesome. Last question. For those who have achieved significant financial success, what advice do you have for maintaining ambition and purpose beyond just achieving financial milestones?
So for those people who have checked off all the boxes, so I've been fortunate in that, even my dad is shocked, because I was, of all the girls, I was definitely the rebel rouser, as he would say. And so my business, it's not a huge business, but since we've been over, we've made about $60 million. And we've just done really well, considering that I used to teach preschool to teaching financial education. And so I have reached a place where most of the goals and hopes and dreams I had financially have come true. There's not too much that I want other than to be able to give back even more. And so that is the lesson I've learned for myself, is that I am focused on things beyond money, meaning like what legacy do I want to leave? Who do I want to help and serve? How can I make this place better? But honestly, that has always been my guiding light. It's the reason why I became a teacher. And so I think that even while you're on your journey, so that way when you reach whatever your financial milestone is, you don't kind of feel empty about it. It's important that you infuse that kind of meaning into like what you're doing. Like so much of the work that we do, we give away for free, all despite having a successful business, because I want to be of service. I remember I watched a documentary some years back about, and I love Mr. Rogers, right? I did not know he was a Presbyterian pastor, and which makes sense because he's just so kind. And so I remember watching this documentary on PBS, and he had this plaque on the back of his wall, and it said, "The purpose of life is to live a life of service." And I truly believe that. And I believe that if money is not going to be, if you don't want to kind of like achieve your financial goals and feel empty at the end, then it's going to be important to infuse service into like your life and how can you make other people's lives better? Because at some point you make enough money potentially that you can't possibly spend it in your lifetime. So what are you doing to improve the lives of those people around you? And you won't feel empty at the end as a result.
That's a true statement. When I was late teens, I read a book. It was really meant for white-collar executives, I believe. And at the time, that was a male-dominated segment of society. And this fellow wrote a book, Teach Your Wife to Be a Widow.
Wow.
And so I'm on my way to Vietnam. I'm quite concerned about my wife being a widow. And he made the case that most men at that era, this is the late 1950s, early 1960s, were the main breadwinner, and that they handled the finances. And they said, well, my wife shouldn't be involved in that. And so men die before women, obviously. We are probably older, women are younger. And then you take the step, we live a different lifestyle. And so I was very aware of that. I read every page of that thing so that, my wife would know what happens in the event of my death. Where's the insurance papers? How do we do this? How do we do that? And that started me towards financial literacy.
Okay.
And then of everything, I came across a book, which was The Richest Man in Babylon.
I love that book.
And it is such a simple parable of the 10 steps and how foolish people are in that he finally saves these coins for a year and then he has a big banquet. And so
I love that book. It's one of my favorite. It's a book that I recommend always. And I don't know if you know this, Dave. I don't know if your team shared this, but I am actually a widow. My husband passed away from an aneurysm about 2.5 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But to your point, we talked about money, and I am fortunate in that I get to just miss him. I tell people that there wasn't this financial drop, because I know friends who've lost husbands and then they lose their house.
Yep.
And that's not the case. My husband provided for me and our stepdaughter. And, she doesn't have to worry about school that's paid for. She doesn't have to worry about her first home for her first car. And he didn't make a lot of money, but he prepared. I mean, we didn't know that, because the aneurysm is pretty sudden. He was young, 41. But he just was always very mindful that, I want to make sure that I take care of the people that I love and take care of. And so I think that should still be the case, that anyone with a partner or even just parents, and, you don't want that in your passing that the person misses you and also has this financial burden as a result, and that's not been the case. So we get to just miss my amazing, wonderful husband, but financially, we're more than fine.
Well, Tiffany, words of wisdom, our audience will love them. I really do admire your biography. You are a servant leader, and it's so kind for people to reach around and give the next person coming up the hill a hand up, and that's what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay. You have a great day. I appreciate you being with me. I'm going to send you a copy of a book I just wrote. Hope you enjoy it.
No, I'd love that. Thank you.